Hey everybody, we are here with Omar Rivero. He's the founder of the new social media platform, Tribal Social, Tribal, also known as Tribal. Uh, he's also one of the founders of the media outlet Occupy Democrats. So he's been pushing for democratic policies for quite a while now. I think since like 2012, if I'm not mistaken. But it's great to have you here. I know I've tried Tribal. I think it's great. I know you're incredibly busy pushing Tribal forward, working on the technology, and just pushing it into the next all the next realm of possibilities, I guess. But we definitely have some questions for you, and welcome to the show. Uh,
Sure, thanks for having me.
so I think the first question that I have is that one thing that really stood out to me when I was exploring Tribal is the fact that you have a really interesting, I guess you could call it a slogan on Instagram, and it reads as follows. It says, we're a new bigotry-free social network where kindness and intelligence flourish." Can you just tell us a little bit about that, why you chose that slogan and what it means to you?
Sure. Well, through my work with Occupy Democrats in a large Facebook page since 2012, I feel like year by year, Facebook and Twitter have gotten more toxic, and they don't put any mechanisms or any safeguards in place or any kind of thought into, how do we turn this into a network where fake news and bigotry, instead of spreading, they're actually suppressed, and then kindness and intelligence are actually boosted by the algorithm or by the mechanics of the system. So I set out, with hindsight, I set out to create a network that has those mechanisms in place, and so far it's working out pretty well.
So other than it being less hateful and full of conspiracy theories, I guess you could say, what makes Tribal different from other social networks like Twitter, like I guess you could say Parler, or like the other ones out there?
Sure. So that's a good question. So the main mechanics of the network are, in my opinion, superior because they connect content creators and content viewers, especially for a specific topic. For example, like sports or basketball or train sets or a certain kind of politics. On Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, it's very hard to build a following because it's very hard to get your content in front of that specific, in front of people who are hungry for that specific content, in front of the right eyeballs. So for example, if you go on Facebook and you make a post about soccer, for example, it's going to take a very long time for that post to reach soccer fans. It's just going to reach a bunch of your random friends and maybe your coworkers, but like people that really don't care. And if you post a picture of like your children, for example, it's also kind of weird because you're going to, it's the post is going to be seen by all these random people in your life, and you're not really trying to get that personal. So I find Facebook a little awkward to use. They don't have like a separation between personal posts and category posts, as we call them
That's a good point. Yeah.
on Tribal. So basically, what Tribal does is it combines the Facebook functionalities of the social media functionalities of Twitter and Facebook. It gives you everything that they offer you, but it also combines them with the forum functionalities of Reddit so that you can discuss, rock music or architecture or painting. So the way that it works is when you make a post, you have the option of selecting an audience for that post. And then content viewers on their feeds can filter their feeds. And there's actually 13 different feeds on Tribal. Facebook and Twitter have one. And these, well, there's four feeds, but three of them can be customized in three different ways. So you can select, for example, just a single category. So hone in, you can say, I want to see what's trending and breaking just in photography or just in arts. Or I want to create a feed with all of my things that I like. So you can add like 80 categories that you're interested in. Or you can walk backwards and you can say, you can work backwards and say, look, show me everything except politics, for example, or like fantasy sports. I like sports, but not fantasy sports. So you can eliminate that from your feed. So in other words, we're connecting content creators and eyeballs that are hungry for that content much faster. So you're able to build a following much quicker. For example, there's users on Tribal with already 20,000 followers, 15,000 followers. Facebook, especially on a personal page, because by the way, because we don't have fan pages like corporations, Our goal is to never allow corporations on the network. Like, so Facebook, Twitter, especially Facebook, like once they rolled out their go-to-market, their well, as they were preparing for basically an IPO, and they realized, well, how do we turn this into a $400 billion company? They basically took your friends out of your feed and started putting Walmart and whatever Ford or whatever company was paying them money to boost their content on the feed. So we want to keep this a people-powered network, where our focus is on making sure that actual people are building a following instead of corporations. So I think that really sets us apart from Facebook.
Yeah, I think that when people hear Tribel, and they don't go to the site, they just think it's just a clone of Twitter, which it clearly is not. It's a whole separate beast, it is Twitter, but it also has those groups and the way to find people and interact with people in ways unlike Twitter. And I think something that's funny to me is, well, maybe it isn't funny, but the fact that uh, people, especially those on the right, claim that Tribel is just the Parler or the Truth Social for the left, and I don't see it that way. If that's the case, then I think that the left is definitely a lot less hateful and bigoted and racist than the right. I go on Tribel and I see normal people discussing all sorts of issues, a range of topics. And they're not spreading hate. They're not spreading conspiracy theories like those on some of these other platforms. What do you say to people who claim that Tribel is just the Parler or the Truth Social of the left?
Sure. Well, as far other than going over all the things that I just went over, but
Yeah.
which makes the mechanics of our network so much different. I mean, you have Parler, Truth Social. There's also some on the left now, like Post or Spoutables coming up, and they're basically Twitter clones. So when I set out to create this network, I said, well, I'm not going to be Twitter at being Twitter or Facebook at being Facebook. I need to use my brain and create it, something that's unique, something that's novel. So I would encourage folks to come over and check it out, because it's not just politics. It's not like a Parler where basically you're being manipulated by just like Donald Trump and his friends to have higher visibility on the network, and it's all based on following those fan pages and following the Daily Wire. On our network, you can talk about arts, photography, you can talk about anything. And I think the experience in the community that we have is, much kinder, much more intelligent. And also, I would say one of the main differences is that our user base tends to skew older. So I think just older folks are just more interested in intellectual, normal conversations on social media. So we definitely have we're definitely gaining a lot of traction with seniors and building a good community of folks who are tired of the toxicity of social media, and they just don't need that in their lives anymore, I guess.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I just want to make a comment. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they create a new product, they just clone another product. So have to give you props for that. I think it's almost impossible to take an established social media platform with hundreds of millions of users and just kind of clone it and maybe say, hey, we're more left leaning or we don't want hate. You gotta create something that's different, something that really stands out, because ultimately people are going to go back to that platform where all the eyeballs are, unless you have something different. So great job in doing that, I think.
Yeah, I think innovation's so key in this, and I think you hit the nail on the head in what you're doing. So obviously Elon Musk, and when he went and started unbanning some of the more hateful people on the platform, I mean, there's dozens, if not hundreds. What that sent people to Tribel. So, but how does Tribel approach the aspect of harassment? What do you do when there's harassment or hate speech? What do you have a terms of service that will handle that or allow you to take action against these individuals?
Sure. So, we don't censor any content. Anybody can go up and, we get 10 posts a minute. So, I mean, we wouldn't even have the manpower to just sit there looking at every piece of content. But what we do is when people report content, we do have a human review it. And if it violates our terms of service against harassment, bullying, discrimination, age, sex, gender, sexual orientation, sexual identity, we just ban the user for life. So like, I think Facebook and Twitter will say, all right, well, that was terrible, you know, like a swastika or something. You know, you get that's like your first strike. You get like 30 minutes off. You know, you do it again, you get like a 24-hour. Then after like 5 strikes, they ban your account. But I feel like they view the users more as a profit center, where they say, well, we can't just start banning like hateful people, because there's plenty of hateful people out there, and those are customers, and they still click on ads, and we need that revenue. We take a different approach on Tribel, which we just ban you for life right away. And you know, you can email us and scream at us all you want, but for us, it's like, if you come to Tribel, you know, you start spreading homophobia. You know, in our eyes, it's like, we really don't want this person to be a part of our community, and we really don't give second chances, because, you know, I feel like, you know, once a homophobe, always a homophobe, and maybe they can come back like in 10 years.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I think that a lot of people on the right, they take offense to the fact that that a private entity is banning people for breaking their terms. But isn't it your right to say, hey, I don't want hate on my platform, and I will define hate however I want to define hate? I just don't understand the argument. Like, people think they have the right to just go on anybody else's platform and spout out whatever hateful thing they want and not face the repercussions. So another thing that I love about Tribel is the fact that you censor when you feel things need to be censored, and that's your right. If people don't like it, they can go elsewhere, right?
Sure. I mean, and we also censor, like, you know, sexually explicit content. It's not just, you know, it's not just people, you know, folks who are violating our terms of service with political content. But we have also banned several liberal users who are harassing people as well. But of course, the ones who really tend to violate the terms of service, you know, at a disproportionately high rate, just tend to be conservatives and Trump supporters who are just coming on the network. For example, we had like libs of TikTok. They were trolling us. They were sending like, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of people to troll us for like, it was like a 2-week wave. And so we were just sitting there just sapping these people. And, you know, they were posting just terrible things, like, you know, posts that were like racist and transphobic and ableist at the same time. You know, it was just terrible. But you know, eventually our system was actually successfully fended them off, because the cool thing about our network is that we don't put any emphasis on the share button. I think the share button is a very dangerous thing. Like, I mean, the way the Facebook and the Twitter algorithms work, you know, retweets on Twitter and shares on Facebook, is, you know, the more shares, the more retweets, it'll immediately tickle the algorithms and show it to more people. But what they don't realize is that a lot of people are sharing and saying, this is BS. This is, you know, for example,
that's a good point.
Pizzagate, right? Like, Hillary Clinton is, you know, running a child pedophilia ring out of a pizza shop. A lot of liberals shared that story or commented on the story, because just to saying like, oh, this is BS. And Facebook says, oh, wow, lots of shares, lots of comments. Let's show it to the whole world. So then that lie spreads, and then by the time, you know, the truth has the chance to put its pants back on, the pizza shop is getting shot up by Trump supporters. You know, like, they really fall hook, line, and sinker. So on our network, we focus on the like button, and we tell users when you first log in, we tell them only like content that is factual, kind, intelligent, relevant, funny, just a high quality piece of content. So in a way, we are crowdsourcing truth and kindness, and it's working, because most of our users are, you know, moderate or liberal, like political leanings. They're above the ages of 40s. They're college educated. They signed up for a kinder social networking experience. So in a way, they're kind of voting with their likes. And we've never had one piece of content on our trending feed. I mean, I invite your followers to check out Tribel. Scroll down the trending feed for, you know, 20 minutes if you'd like, and you won't find any bigotry. You won't find any fake news. So our system, without having the need for fact checkers, like 2 weeks later, like try to like add a little fact checking thing to it, and the lie already went so far around the world, like no one even believes the fact checkers anymore. Our system kind of weeds out hostility and fake news on its own, because you basically have to trick, you know, tens of thousands of college educated, like intelligent folks with your post. And it's not that easy to do that. On Facebook, it's a lot easier, especially given the negative effects, the detrimental effects of the share button and the comment algorithm formula that they use.
Yeah. So what would you say your vision for the future of Tribal is, and how do you plan to execute and achieve that vision?
Sure. So right now we're still like we basically just finished version 1.0 of Tribal on all devices. Like we just launched an Android app and an iOS app that is comparable to Twitter and Facebook. Maybe not, those are $400 billion companies. They have a little bit more bells and whistles, but for what the average user uses social media for, it's nearly compatible and it's really fast and really sleek. So now our plan is to really hit the ground running. I mean, I'm finally starting to do interviews, for example. Another really cool thing that maybe your followers would find interesting is that instead of going towards, instead of looking to venture capitalists or private equity firms, what in the company. So we're doing a crowdfunder on WeFunder in the next like 2 weeks, which is really cool because our users can own a small piece of equity in Tribal and succeed when we succeed. And that way we can keep the ethos of the company. And, because private equity firms or venture capital firms will come and they'll say, yeah, this is great. Like, I want to put ads here, this and that.
Yeah.
Oh, like if Donald Trump wants to advertise, great, bring them on. So our plan is to use the money raised from the WeFunder to keep developing, and also to go out and get publicity and also bring in like market to other categories. So the network right now is a little bit too political. Like my intention is really not to create a political network. It's just that I'm not a wealthy man, and I actually don't have the money I've never even spent $1 on marketing Tribal because I don't have the money. Like I basically self-funding the project, and I have enough money to barely keep the lights on right now.
So is the WeFunder up right now, the crowdfunding?
It's not up right now, but it's in the works. So we're aiming for the 20th to do the WeFunder. But if any of your folks are interested, find me on Tribal. I just made a post about it on Tribal. So if you go on Tribal, you search for Omar Rivero, you can find me. I made a post about it like 2 days ago. Or just use Tribal regularly because we'll be making updates and pinning them to the top of the trending feed and letting all of our users. And we'll also email all of our users in the next coming weeks or so. But yeah, we want to definitely use a lot of that more.
I like the idea of giving equity away.
We want to use. Yeah,
I like
there
the
was a
idea
lot
of
of
equity.
folks. Yeah, there was a lot of folks who were like, "Oh my God, I love Tribal," messaging me like, "Oh, I want to donate to Tribal," and I felt bad. I said, "Well, if you're gonna donate $500, you might as well get something out of it, And a lot of these folks on Tribals, some of them are like seniors on Social Security, and they still were like willing to like donate just to keep their community going. Because at one point, it's like I could barely keep the lights on, and like our hosting service was going to shut us down. So yeah, so then people offered, to make these little micro donations, and I said, well, actually, that's kind of cool. And I put out a feeler, and I said, hey, would you guys be interested in a WeFunder? And like over like 1,500 members commented on the post saying that. Well, I made like 3 or 4 posts. I think we're up to like 1,500 have commented saying that they're interested. And actually, some of them have messaged me privately and want to invest a lot more than like what's in the WeFunder now. So there's a lot of faith in the company, and there's a surprising amount of users who want to be a part of our journey and succeed when we succeed. So that's pretty exciting.
That's amazing. And I think whenever you have people that are interested in being part of the project, that's always a plus. So what happens when, we're going to see more and more competitors trying to jump into this arena, especially as Elon Musk makes his changes? How do you plan on staying competitive in that type of ecosystem?
Sure. Well, so once we raise the money, I want to market to other categories. I want to bring in like next week we're doing a push for artists and designers, like digital designers and artists, and maybe we can do another push for like athletes and whatever. Because I think what really sets us apart is that we're not a clone. We actually are kind of like an we're like a version 2.0, or maybe like a next generation Facebook and Twitter. The more users we have, the more the categories fill up, the more the rankings really mean something, the more content that you can find in specific categories. And I think that, like, for example, right now, if you put in like, soccer or something, you might find some posts, but we don't really have like a huge soccer community on here yet. But if we do get to the point that we do have a big soccer community and like a knitting community, and like, you have developers are like making posts about coding, for example, like something for everybody, I think at that point, we can definitely, I wouldn't want to say compete with Facebook or Twitter, but I think the community will grow, and I think really set us apart from all these other competitors who are just really just creating another. They're just cloning Twitter and then bringing a bunch of liberals to it, and I don't. I mean, I wish them well, but it'd just be hard to maintain something like that without really giving something different, because eventually they'll just go back to Twitter or go back to Facebook, because it's really hard to get all your friends to join you on a network. So our intention is to have something for everybody. So everybody has all kinds of different interests. For example, Reddit is super cool. I love Reddit. So we want to really flesh out the forum functionalities of Tribal by bringing in folks who have other interests than just politics. But of course, that's going to take money and a sustained marketing campaign. So that's what I hope to raise some money and do that.
Yeah, I think Tribal has already kind of generated a lot of interest merely for the fact that it's kind of pushing forward positive social change. It's making social media more peaceful, more caring, more compassionate, less hateful. How do you plan to continue to push like this positivity forward? And in what ways do you want Tribal to progress as it grows?
Sure. Well, I think, of course, it'll get more difficult as you get more users and just open up to, the whole country. But I do think that we have a very robust reporting system, and we have a community of people who are very dedicated to keeping Tribal a nice place. So I feel like on Facebook, if you post something that's like, pretty homophobic, but not like so explicitly homophobic, you might not even get anybody reporting it. But on our network, like, people are really on the lookout for like people, for trolls or just like nasty people. So we take a good look at them. We check all their activity on their account, and we just ban them for life. I feel like if we keep doing that, which I think other networks really don't, and so far it's working out pretty well with just a very small staff. I think with a larger staff, we can easily accommodate more people, and we just make sure that when we ban people, we ban their IP addresses. So our banning, we've also had to like improve our banning mechanisms as well, and we've done that. So, but to answer your other question, I view Tribal as like an extension of my political work. So I'm not really an entrepreneur. I mean, I do have a business degree. I studied politics and business, and then I started like a political business, but I'm more of like a political activist. So I started Occupy Democrats just because I wanted to counter the Tea Party, and at the time it was the Tea Party, and they were like shredding government and cutting taxes on billionaires, and I was like, wait, that's exactly the opposite of what America needs right now. So I feel like social media is just such a dangerous thing. It's Facebook and Twitter are really, I mean, I've spoken to climate change experts who are saying we're making less progress on climate change now because of social media. So I feel like social media is creating anti-science sentiments. A lot of people are getting really wrapped up in crazy conspiracies. Yeah. It's opening America's racial wounds that we're starting to little by little getting better. So I'm taking the Hippocratic oath with this network, and just do no harm. Like, just if I could improve social media and make it 10-15% nicer, 10-15% more accurate, I would consider that job well done from an activist point of view.
Yeah, I love that. So you're available on Android and Apple. You're also on the web, right? What's the website again?
So the website is tribel.com, Tribel, and just search the App Store, the Android store for Tribel. I would recommend using the apps. The apps are super nice. You get push notifications, etc. But the desktop version is also quite nice as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's going to be the end of our normal interview. But if you have upgraded on Krassenstein.news, you will be able to see part 2 of our interview, which we're going to ask some more in-depth questions to Omar about Tribel.